following discovery packet from the plaintiff to the defendant. I'm going to use the New York case sample 3. This is a divorce with custody. This is a simple one. It's really just about the kids, no assets. The case file has all of the documents that were filed in the case, motions, settlement offers, affidavits, oppositions, basically anything filed in the case is in it. So I'm going to go over to Discovery Agent 6 and then put in the New York case file and ask it to create the discovery packet. This is going to create the request for interrogatories, the request for production of documents, the request for admissions, certificates of services, a letter to the client before the documents go out to have the client review them, see if they want to make any changes, explaining what the discovery process is and everything, and then another letter for after the final version is done, after the client has been able to review them, then another letter that goes out to opposing counsel. In this case, I redacted all the names and addresses, but in a typical case, it will take the case heading off the case. It will take the attorneys, both the plaintiff and the defendant's attorneys, or if they're pro se, just the plaintiff and the defendant, whichever one is pro se, and it'll put their names and addresses and phone numbers and email addresses everywhere that they're supposed to be in the document. For this one, it has a docket number that says fake with some numbers. It does have a New York case heading, a sample case heading on it, and it just has generic addresses. For the children's name, there's 2 kids in this case. I named them Child 1 and Child 2. In the actual documents, it will pull the children's names and their births and put those in. So instead of Child 1 or Child 2, it will say their actual names. It's also going to create a separate file for them. It'll be under the New York case sample. It will create a discovery file. And then in that discovery file will be a separate file for each set, the interrogatory and the request for admissions. And it will also save the letters in there. And it will create, for the interrogatories, each state has a different amount that's allowed. New York has 30 that's allowed. So I had it draft up the 30 into the actual form, but also create a separate list of additional interrogatories to kind of pick and choose from. So where there's the limit, if there's only 30 allowed, after reviewing them, you might go through them and decide that some of them are not really necessary. So you can take the separate list and cut and paste some ideas from there also. I like having the extra ones available, so I had to create that too. And then at the end, there's going to be a summary. So the summary sheet will basically say on it what discovery went out, how many days until they're due. That varies by state too. And this is all set. It recognizes each state's rules. It has the discovery rules for all 50 states in it, so it knows how many days are the appropriate days for the specific state. But that summary sheet will show what was on it, kind of a shortened version of what was asked. And like I said, when they're due, what the questions were about. It'll basically go through the file and read everything in the file and get ideas for what it needs. If it's a case of a lot of financial issues, it will go through the financial statements. And if there were bank statements, or say there were 401k statements or other pension statements, it will go through them. It will just get the questions from what it read in the file. That's where interrogatories are complete. Here are the additional ones. There's no case heading on it because this is just for the file. Extra questions, just in case we want some more additional ideas, just in case we decide to use the original 30. If we took some of them out, maybe if we liked these better, we could cut and paste them into it. So let me go back to the interrogatories and open that one. It has the case heading on it. I named the plaintiff mother, defendant father. So normally the names will go there. Their actual name, then defendant, actual name, plaintiff. The index number would be the case number, docket number, depending on what it's called per state. We have the actual number. I created these documents with the fake 0000. It's just a basic heading for New York, the New York instructions and definitions. So no matter if I switched it and said to make it a California case, it would put, or if the documents said California on them, these instructions would be based on California, whatever state that the case was out of. And then it starts with the interrogatories, and it lists state your name, address, employer, annual income. It just went through the file and created the initial 30 questions. It's about motor vehicles and retirement accounts, pension plans, all of those questions. And then it'll start asking some questions about the children, proposed parenting plan, why they believe the parenting plan is in the best interest of the children, the facts, why they're seeking primary custody, all the reasons there, and your role in playing. And the role you played in caring for the children, homework count, daily routines, things like that. It's a custody case, so it focused on that type of stuff. This is a request for production of documents it completed. Put in the case heading, the name and address, the rules for the request for production of documents, and the request asking for tax returns, pay bonuses, commissions, all of that stuff, everything employment, bank statements, all of those to produce those documents, and documents for 401ks, retirement accounts. It just goes on vehicles and health insurance, dental insurance, who pays it, inheritances, all the expenses, children's medical care, children's education, school records, extracurricular activities, child care arrangements, communications between the plaintiff and the defendant, social media posts about the plaintiff or the children, anything having to do with counseling, anger management, criminal charges, just a bunch of questions that have to do with the child custody and the divorce that I got from the file. That's the documents. And here are the requests for admissions it completed. With being 20 days for these ones, they're automatically considered admitted in the court. So it has the basic ones. You were married this date, that you have 2 children, child 1 and child 2. Their real names would be in it if there were names in the file, but I renamed the children. It's child 1 and child 2. The date they separated, employment, the marital home. It says that the marital home located at 2222 Imaginary Street is a marital property subject to equitable division. It goes on to ask questions about that the children have resided there primarily their whole life. And that both parties have made financial contributions. And it's just a whole bunch of admit and deny. So basically, if it was a highly contested case and the document showed that the plaintiff had some concerns about the defendant not taking care of the kids, or if he had a gambling problem, or he didn't contribute to the household, or she, whichever way it was, it would take those questions or those concerns from the file and create them into to admit or deny questions. Here's the 3 certificates of service. All 3 of them will be relatively the same. It just says the document that it is. It would automatically fill in the defendant or the defendant's attorney's address that it was sent to, or it was sent by email, or if it was served, however way they did that. And this is the letter. It created a letter to the client. This will fill in the appropriate stuff if that's filled in the file. And the case name and docket number, the client's name. It kind of goes over the whole discovery thing, the overview of discovery, what's in the discovery packet, interrogatories, requests for production documents, requests for admissions, how many questions are in each of them, the certificate of service, the purpose of the discovery request, and what kind of questions it's asking. And on this particular one, it's set so from 2 weeks from the date of the letter. They want to know if there's any additional questions that you want to include, any areas that need more clarification. And then the next steps. This is just the attorney explaining to the client that the defendant will have 30 days for the interrogatories and the request for production of documents, 20 days to the admissions, closure, including the additional ones in case they want to switch out any of the additional interrogatories, and the enclosures. So that's. And then now a letter to the client. This one out. Letter to opposing counsel. Same thing. It's enclosing them that they're due within 30 days, 20 days. And the deadline, it's all the deadlines. This is all standard stuff that another attorney may not need to know, but if the opposing party is pro se, if they're not represented, that this is kind of good information, really explain everything to them, what they need to do. And then the enclosures. So, it says everything it does. Interrogatories, goes over it, kind of things they're asking for in the admissions, and the production of documents, certificates of service, supporting letters, and then a master packet index. This is the index. This is for the file. This is not to go to anyone. It's just an overview and who prepared it, what is in it, in the discovery folder, and key issues addressed in the discovery. Kind of basically a summary of discovery. And the timeline, these are due in 30 days, these are due in 30, these are due in 20. The codes that put the requirement in, the limits, so the interrogatory limits that they can't ask more than 30, and then the admissions that if they're not responded to by within 20 days, they're automatically admitted, verification requirements, and next steps, have the client review it, finalize them, serve them, file a certificate of service, monitor deadlines, review responses. And this is the setup of the folders. I'll go over to that in a minute. Okay, so actually I'll go do that now. This, it writes us all up here. That's everything that's on the paper I just swapped up. So now we can go over to the client file. So we'll go here. So the New York case sample file now has, it had the case file, but now it has a discovery file. So it has separate files for admissions request, and that's the certificate of service in the request, same as the interrogatory request with the additional extra interrogatories and the request for production of documents. And then here is the discovery packet index, the summary that was created, letter to client, and the letter to opposing counsel. So that is all now in the client file, all nice and organized.